Hey everyone, I'm back and I'm on a new channel. Woo! And I can see one of you has made it over already from my other channel. Thank you so much, Gillian. Let me just show you and your happy face. That's so nice to have the support from you. Thank you so much. So welcome. This is my first live stream from my new channel, Feel Good Astrology. For those of you that have watched my stuff before, it's been on the old channel, which is Louisa Tanner Munson. What I've done is I've split these. So Louisa Tanner Munson is all about healing stuff, interviews with great people, and anything that can help you find freedom and clarity. And then this channel, Feel Good Astrology, is to discuss all things astrological, to teach and to learn astrology, and also to help us find freedom and clarity, because they're the two things that absolutely mean the most to me is, are we being free in this moment? Are we happy in this moment? Do we have clarity? It's all about that. And I'm hoping that this is a safe space for us to explore our own astrology together and also explore the times, like actually look at what's going on. So please do feel free, if you're in the chat room, do feel free to just drop me a message. Really happy to keep this as interactive and as light as possible. So what have we got for the month of December? Now, it's been a while since I've done any updates, any actual astrological forecasts. And I think one of the reasons has been the planets of the time have really sort of sat in my birth chart, and really I found the effects of them really quite profound. And in particular, one thing that's been going on, Neptune went retrograde back in June. And for anyone that's very intuitive, spiritual, creative, musical, anyone that tunes in, I've been speaking, and that's a lot of my clients, by the way. A lot of them have been feeling in a bit of a funk, in a bit of finding it difficult to know how to take action and how to get really, really clear. And one of the things that has been playing into that is that at the start of the year, we had this very open, expansive, and I think world-changing aspect between Jupiter and Neptune, which occurred early, sort of late spring, early summer, and it was Jupiter and Neptune in a conjunction in the sign of Pisces, two unboundaried signs in the unboundaried sign of Pisces. And so that set us all up for this really expansive, creative year ahead. And I think for a lot of us, we had lots of sort of feelings of downloads and potential and this, that, and the other, but it also brought up a shitload of healing for people. And so when Neptune went direct in June, what I've seen and what I've experienced myself, and what has come through to me in my inquiries with clients, is that people have felt almost stuck, like they're in a bit of a fog, like there's been a bit of a mystery to unfold and unwrap. We've also had Chiron retrograde. I mean, to be fair, all these outer planets go retrograde for many months of every year, but these ones have been in particular very strong, especially seeing as we've also had the background of having Uranus in a conjunction with the North Node for pretty much most of the year. And Uranus is about us being shocked. It's about us awakening. It's about us being individual and original. It's really about us finding our true purpose. In particular, a karmic purpose. And so that's also being played out. Now, what I actually see on a grand scale is that we are all finding freedom and clarity worldwide, as a human race. That's my sort of intuitive, but also astrological read on what's been going on. Now, I've also seen that that's been going on very personally for people too. So, for instance, I've noticed that the more psychic and creative and observant people have been feeling that sense of potential. They've been feeling it in the post a little bit before everyone else. But trust me when I say I think this awakening feeling is coming to us all at some level in our lives. And for those of you that welcome it and kind of breathe it in and sit with it and enjoy it, I think they've been changed. They've been open to new possibilities. And for those that have resisted it, have found quite a lot of calamity going on in their life. I've had a bit of that too, I have to say. Anyway, that's kind of the background leading up to December, because right before we hit December, well, actually right before November started, we had Mars going retrograde, and Mars really slowed it right down, because Mars was in the sign of Gemini. It was going at great pace through the sign of Gemini. And when Mars is in Gemini, it absolutely brings up this kind of choppiness about us all. You know, we all want to get in on the action. We all want to have a comment. We all want to have a say. We all want to make ourselves heard. And we're very opinionated, and lots of information comes at us, boom, 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 very quickly. And so that started off in October, and it was quite a startling time. Now, right before Halloween, Mars went retrograde. And not only was it retrograde, but it was in a tight square with Neptune. And so you've got these two energies of Mars and Neptune really gumming up the works for us. So Neptune is our creativity, our sort of spirituality, our desire to merge with everything and be kind of infinite beings. And also sexual, you know, it's almost like a perfume, you know, you kind of spray it on like eau de Neptune, and it kind of gives you an overall feeling, a sensation. And then you got Mars, which is very, very direct. And when the two of them went into this square, and Mars was retrograde, Neptune was retrograde, it's like all of our feelings of action and clarity kind of went on rewind. It's like someone hit an old 80s deck rewind button. It's going, it's all like rewinding at very fast speeds. And you're thinking, oh my God, I thought I was about to step forwards then. Whoa, where's my future just gone? Oh my God, is it even the right future? Now, this is where we are. And as we step into December, I've got some great news. And that is that things are starting to change. Not only are they starting to change and turn, but we're actually going into a phase of creating action and knowing the right action, which is super duper important, I think. So as I see this happening, it really starts on the 4th when Neptune goes direct. So that's a good marker to look at, because as Neptune goes direct, what we've got is this feeling of a return of clarity. It's like any kind of fogginess. If we were wearing glasses or a little bit foggy, it's like they start to lift and we start to see it. Anyone that has got a very, very strongly placed Neptune is going to be really grateful for this change. And I know I've got one watching. I've probably got a few watching, but I definitely know one of them has got a very strong Neptune. And so that is absolutely, if you've got it on an angle or in a conjunction with your sun or moon, it is going to make a huge difference, and you'll feel yourself lifted and start moving back into action. Then on the 6th, between the 6th and the 10th, I see that we've got a lot of great stuff going on. Mercury is going into Capricorn. Now, Mercury doesn't really like being in Sagittarius, where it's been for the last short while. Mercury is actually in its detriment in the sign of Sagittarius. And I've actually got Mercury in the sign of Sagittarius. And it makes our thinking quite scattered. It makes us such big planet, like big thinkers, that we often can't see the wood for the trees. And so as Mercury goes into the sign of Capricorn, we get very detail focused and get very practical in our thinking. And that's very helpful in chivying us along. It's really helpful to get us starting to take a step at a time. You know, we're not creating these great big plans that are going to take us like 3 years into the future. We're just saying, okay, what's my next step, please? And we take that next step. So it's practical, it's very straightforward, and it's easy to absorb. It's also going to make our communications a lot more maybe abrupt. They might seem a bit more rude rather than sort of flouncy and whatnot, but it will be very, very helpful, I think, for people to get with the program. Then we've got a very challenging full moon on the 8th, and I'll have a look at that in a sec. I've got the chart for that. And then on the 10th, we've got Venus going into the sign of Capricorn. And, you know, Venus is very happy in the sign of Sagittarius, you know, because she can be really free and spontaneous. And she can, I think there's always a lovely sort of gregariousness and a feeling of sharing when Venus is in the sign of Sagittarius. But she's going into the sign of Capricorn, and so she's getting a bit more formal. So again, not only are our communications going a bit more formal from the 6th, but from the 10th, the way we're reacting with people, we're a bit more boundaried, we're a bit more respectful, we're not going to be overstepping the mark. And so those two planets leading us up into the festive period, it's going to be very helpful, because let's face it, it's a time when so many different things are coming at you, you know, lots of invitations, lots of things you're trying to wrap up before the holidays. And, you know, it can be quite an expensive time. So having these two going into the sign of Capricorn is not only leading us forward, but it's also helping us to maintain a sense of proportion. And that's not normally a word I use at this Sagittarian time of year. And then not a lot happens mid-month, but then it all starts happening again towards the end, when Jupiter goes into Aries, which is really the big news of this month, I think. Chiron goes direct, and then we have another new moon and the solstice as well. What I'd like to do now is just quickly have a look at the full moon, because like I said, it's a bit of a it's a bit of a funny one. So let's share that now. Let me just check I've got the right one. Yep. So it's Thursday, the 8th of December, 4:08 a.m. If you're based in the UK or Portugal. If you're in central Portugal, sorry, if you're in Central Europe, you need to adapt that by an hour. You'll be an hour ahead. And I always pick London, A, because I'm in this time zone, but B, because it's the midpoint of all the calculations for the days, in terms of looking around the world. So what I want to draw your attention to is that we've got, check this out. So if you can see this, we've got the moon here at 16 degrees in the sign of Gemini. We've also got Mars here at 1607 degrees in the sign of Gemini, in exact opposition to the sun. Now, the moon and the sun are always in exact opposition at the time of the full moon. But if the moon is in a conjunction with Mars, then the sun is in opposition with Mars. So this is going to be a very, very tight day, and I'll explain a little bit about that in just a sec. But I also want to observe that not only are these all in quite a stressful position, but we've also got Juno here. Now, I really do like the asteroid Juno. Not everybody uses Juno, but I have a series of little asteroids that I use almost like they're planets in pretty much every reading. Now, Juno I see as being the energy of commitment and dedication. Dedication, I think. So it often shows us attachments that we have a very difficult time of letting go of. It shows us where we're deeply attached, where we're really committed to something, and where we really don't want to let go of it. And so what I notice, see, Mars is the element of all things masculine, all things male, all things yangy, all things that are thrusting. It's, to very meek and mild people, the energy of Mars will appear as aggression. To people who are assertive, it would just seem like Mars is just assertion on steroids. But I mean, Mars is an action taker. Mars really helps us to move forwards. Mars helps us to catalyze things, to get things going. So we all need the energy of Mars. We all need this catalyzing energy. It's perfect. But Mars in the sign of Gemini, which I've already spoken about, is taking action in terms of little things. And in the community, Gemini is lots of bits and pieces. Gemini is not known for a mass of perseverance and long-term perspective. It's very short-term and very flitty, like a butterfly, flittering from one thing to another, to another, to another. So Mars here has this eagerness to crack on with things, to dive into things, and then dive into new things. So it's not necessarily a persistent Mars energy we got. But with the moon represents our emotions and our psyche. In the world chart, it represents humans, like humanity, the human population. And so, and Mars, the moon can also represent our children. So here we've got Mars and the moon together. If you think of your emotions when they're really direct, when they're really forceful, when they're assertive, when you're going to take action, and when you're taking action in terms of your communication, this, I think, could be very argumentative. It could be very steamy. Our emotions are likely to get very heated. We're unlikely to be able to keep on an even keel. It's characteristically a time where we're likely to lose our rag very quickly over the slightest little thing, not even something that really matters that much. But it's pretty blow upable. It's pretty, well, it could even be seen as slightly cruel, because like Mars, the energy of sort of assertion, combined with the energy of Gemini, which is about facts and kind of observing things rather than people. Like Sagittarius is the other side of it. You've got like the facts on Gemini, it's the information side, and then the Sagittarian side of it is very much about the context, the meaning behind it all. So you've got one that seems more rational and one that seems more connected in terms of thinking. And so here what's going on is we're having a bucket load of rationality being very forced. So I think a lot of facts, a lot of things are coming out, and a lot of things are disturbing us. We're getting upset about little things, but not necessarily getting the greater significance. Now, when you think of Mars in opposition to the Sun, this is where things are taking significance. So the Sun represents our egos, which are very different to, or our personalities, which is very different to our kind of psyche, emotions, and behaviors. So, and instincts as well. So we've got fired up instincts and emotions, and not so much control over how we're being. And at the same time, it almost feels like our personality is being opened wide in quite a visceral way to a new context, a new position. And it doesn't look like we're really getting the choice. It looks like someone's almost ramming us with this new context. So it's like, here are these facts, and what it means is this. And it's like, whoa, where did you come from, little person, with all this opinion? And whoa, back off. This is my life. So it's really quite. I think it could be quite. Well, threatening, triggering, all those kinds of things. So, this is very much affecting how we relate to people in terms of what we know and what we're sharing, and how we're presenting this information. So this is a very, very dynamic energy. Now, when we add in this energy of Juno, which is what we're dedicated to, this is where the real tension comes to, because we're all, whether we see ourselves, however we see ourselves in the world, it feels like we're all being challenged with a new perspective right now. Some more than others. I think the more open-minded you can be, the more accepting of new information you can be, the easier this will all be. I mean, like, what's the worst thing you can learn as an open-minded person that, tries not to judge anything? The worst thing you can learn is that there are no judgments, maybe, who knows, or that, that it's a position of weakness somehow. But, like, the less judgment you have right now, the easier this full moon is going to be. But the more tightly bound you are on your beliefs, it's almost like the more you're likely to be challenged. Now, Juno, in her dedication and commitment, is also in the sign of Pisces. So it's like, ooh, we're also dedicated to peace. We're also dedicated to connection. And so all this information is also possibly disconnecting us from those that we are committed to. So isn't that a conundrum to work through? So yeah, that's a big thing. But there's lots of really great things about this. So one of the things I like about this full moon is that we can discharge some of this energy. So I see this as a discharging point here, which is Saturn. And Saturn is very much about our limits and our structures and our form. And Saturn's known as being a bit of a, he's Saturn's not really seen in a particularly positive light necessarily. Saturn is seen as a bit of a bugbear. He's somebody that complains about everything. He's a bit of a miser. And if you look at the Saturn mythology, you'll find out that he's actually quite jealous of other people trying to usurp him. So he creates all these little rules and regulations and these pyramids of levels of structure that you can sit in. So Saturn is actually quite protective of himself. But there are some benefits to this kind of energy. So this kind of energy has a lot of discernment. And so what I do see is, we are getting hot under the collar because our instincts and our behaviors are being super challenged. It's making us, it's almost forcing us into a new concept or context for seeing the world, which is a little bit, triggering. But then you see, well, actually, maybe this is a new way of being. Maybe there is some kind of benefit for this. Maybe we can be practical about this. So the way we discharge this is, I think, this lovely trine between the feelings of energetic instinctiveness, which is coming up. It can be really bolstered by just saying, okay, how can this be applied? So again, it's like a practical question. The first thing you might say is it true? How do I know it's true? Where are the evidences? How much of this is outweighed? What's sponsoring it? I would definitely ask those questions, because Saturn often represents money, business, governments, blah, 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 all kinds of levels of bureaucracy. So you might ask, well, where did that information come from? Who paid for that information? But I mean, might not be talking about world events. We might be talking about things in our own homes, in our own relationships with our husbands and wives and family and friends. So we might be saying, well, where's the physical evidence of this? What makes you think that? What are the reactions of having this feeling in the body right now? Is this supporting me? Now, a great question I came across very recently was, is it making me lighter or is it making me heavier? And I hadn't quite realized the distinction here, but where things are making us heavier, it might not be it might not represent our truth. It represents something that is actually pulling us down. Whereas if we can get very specific and discerning, like use Saturn as a discerner here, and say, well, is this information lightening me? Does this feel like it could be truth? Is it freeing me up? So I see a little bit of help here, and Saturn is here. If we can take some of the passion out of feeling like we're being preached to, we might be able to see the sense and practicality of what's going on. Whew. Yeah, but it's essentially quite a strong effect. And like I say, Neptune at this point is going forwards. So he is moving forwards. He's never going to catch up with Jupiter. Jupiter's about to change signs at the end of the month, but we've still got all this Pisces energy to work through. And that's the super unconscious mind, the collective consciousness. It is pretty much everything that we are living in, everything that we don't see, feel, hear, or taste or smell, or all these things we're not conscious of that is around us all the time. This is the soup of psychicness. So there's a lot of it, and a lot of us are feeling almost like it's upon us. We're not actually understanding how we relate to it. But anyway, that's all going to start clearing up now that Neptune's going forwards and Jupiter is going to change signs very soon. So let's go on to the next thing that I wanted to mention, which is a little bit about Jupiter. So Jupiter is the planet of expansion. I'm going to talk more about Jupiter, over the next couple of weeks when Jupiter goes into sign of Aries. Jupiter is our expander. And, when we think of expansion, it has these great connotations. You think, oh, it's expansive, it must be good. Well, so is your expanding waistline. So is inflammation is an expansive thing. So Jupiter does expand things, but based on where it's falling in your chart, it could be expanding you in a wonderful way. It could also be expanding all the existing inflammations that you've got in your body. And those could be physical ones, but they could also be very inflammatory belief systems that you've got that could really take hold in a way that's quite unholy. So Jupiter is always worth sort of analyzing and getting a feel for, where does it sit in your chart. This is going to change the pace. When it goes into Aries, the feeling of expansion becomes very independent, and it becomes very charged, and it becomes very confident and bold, and it wants to expand at all costs. And woe betide anyone that stops this flipping expansion. It's like, get out of my limitations. I'm only about expansion right now. So, Jupiter is going to be pretty fast and free, and we're going to have a very zippy sort of 4 or 5 months as we explore Jupiter going through Aries. Now, he has already been in Aries. He was in Aries between May last year, May the 10th to the 28th of October. And he kind of dipped his toe in. So things started moving. Like, for instance, in my own personal life, I started getting lots of great ideas. I started to actualize. Lots of really useful information came out, lots of changes. And then around the end of July, he went retrograde and has been going retrograde until the 23rd of November. And so although there was all this expansive energy, it suddenly started to back out and go back into the sign of Pisces. It was going retrograde. And so you've got all this expansion that you've gone through, and then this feeling of, oh, hang on, there's this reason I can't quite expand, and the frustration of it. And so adding the Neptune retrograde, the Mars the new Mars retrograde, and the Chiron retrograde, and then Jupiter retrograde all together, at this time when we're wanting to expand, it has really felt quite hellish. Anyway, Jupiter is going forwards. It's already going forwards again. So we're already starting to get into that expansive mode, and things should be step by step getting easier. But from the 20th of December, which, by the way, is my birthday, just so you know, 20th of December, Jupiter is going into the sign of Aries, and it's going to see us into Christmas, the new year, and we're starting to zip and get excited. So all of that sort of expanded. What does this mean? Oh, what is the nature of me? All this navel gazing that's not really going anywhere is going to start to have a real purpose. And I think there's going to be a bit of peace. And dare I say, a lovely exhale of breath, and everyone's going to go, oh, thank goodness. So anyway, like I said at the start, we had Mercury going into Capricorn, Venus going into Capricorn. We had that tricky full moon that was quite spiky, and that's kind of woken us up. The Neptune retrograde has eased off. Jupiter's gone into sign of Aries. And then on the 21st of December, for some reason I haven't put the chart in, we've got our solstice, the winter solstice. So the sun goes into the sign of Capricorn, and then we really do shift up a gear. So that's the longest night of the year in the northern hemisphere, and it's like we start to return to light. It is this kind of thing that's comes up in our brain. It's like, things are going to start to get a bit easier, things are going to start to get lighter. The next day, it depends where you are in the world, whether it's actually hitting you on the 22nd or the 23rd. But anyway, it's hitting us on the 22nd. Let me just bring it up. Oh, no, it's not on the 23rd. Sorry. My mistake. Let me just bring this up. We've got the full moon. Sorry, the new moon in Capricorn. So like by the 23rd, we've got the Mercury, Venus, the sun, and also the moon in the sign of Capricorn. This is a really, really good time for us to really start feeling like we're stepping forward. So again, it's like stepping into confidence. It's us getting clearer, more practical, less wavering, and a lot more direct. This is the time for us to really sow our seeds. And dare I say, I know a lot of people really like to do New Year resolutions. I was going to say new moon resolutions. Actually, I quite like those. But you know how people like to have the habit of going into the new year. It's an arbitrary point in many ways, but they like to set up these ideas as to what their new year ahead is going to be like, and fair play to them. Actually, this is the time I would set this new moon in Capricorn. As I do every year, the new moon in Capricorn, I think, is a really great time. So here it's right at the beginning of Capricorn at 1 degrees, both of them. Like I said, Venus and Mercury are already there. Now we've still got Pluto here, and by this time next year, Pluto will have dipped his toe into the sign of Aquarius. I think he's going to be back in Capricorn, but this is the last time that we've really got Pluto's undivided attention in Capricorn. So there's a lot of things coming up. Like Pluto brings up our fears, our fears of death, like the whole pandemic moment in time that we've been through has definitely been influenced by Pluto in the sign of Capricorn, which is about aging and old people and restrictions and mandates and laws and this, that, and the other. So this Pluto energy is coming to an end. I daren't say right now what it's giving way to, because when it goes into Aquarius, it could be all sorts of electronic mandates. And don't get me started on that. But it could also open us up to other potentials too. But we've got Pluto here in a conjunction with Mercury. So as we go into this new moon, it's got laser-like thinking, very, very focused, very transformative. So if there's something you're really wanting to transform, now here's the big thing: Chiron is also direct. Finally, Chiron's no longer retrograde; it goes direct on this day. Now, Chiron is the wounded healer. And as many people who watch this and who are connected with me know, often we're all trying to heal everyone else and not so good at healing ourselves. So if you've been struggling with healing an aspect of your life or making sense of it, and really mastering it, because I also see that Chiron is a master. The mastery is coming back. It's signaling that time of, oh, it's time to wake up to this new level of mastery. So we've got like this laser-like transformational thinking, and we can definitely apply it in terms of our healing. Like I say, Jupiter is now in the sign of Aries. That's also going to kind of ramp up that healing energy. And as Jupiter moves through Aries quite quickly in January and February, that's also going to really stir the need for healing, definitely. Trying to think if there's anything else I wanted to share with you. I feel like I'm done, actually, but I really shouldn't just say that, because there's another last thing just to share with you, and that is, let me just take this out of the feed. My mouse has stopped working. There we are. Last thing then, because you think, oh well, 23rd of December, we're probably home and dry now. But on the 29th of December, Mercury goes retrograde. Now, I did find the last Mercury retrograde quite challenging, I have to say. I'm not a huge one to really consider Mercury retrograde and the effects it has, because we have 3 of them a year. So it's not like it's a really rare event. It's pretty common. The last Mercury retrograde I found really did change things. I find when Mercury is retrograde in a Mercury ruled sign like Virgo or Gemini, it affects us so much more, and the communications. Now, Mercury is going retrograde in the sign of Capricorn. He's also on that day, I think, or the very next day, he'll be in a conjunction with Venus whilst being retrograde. Now that is going to be interesting. When Mercury goes retrograde in the sign of Capricorn, yeah, we are starting to think about things slightly differently. So maybe our rush into being practical could be refined. And I would use refinement as a quite useful word, a watchword for around the 30th, when Mercury and Venus are in a conjunction, because they're both in the sign of Capricorn, which is very much about discernment and refinement and things being classic and classy. So what I would probably do if I was in your shoes at the end of this month is just plan to have some quiet, like some solitude, some peaceful time. Maybe set some goals of doing something gentle, something that's easy, something that can help you step into your future whilst not really being too avant-garde. It's not a time to take any risks. It's not a time to, set up a business necessarily, but it is a time to be gently planning. So I would just plan to have a gentle ease into the new year. So anyway, I'm sure now I'm back live on my new channel. I'm sure I'm going to be doing a lot more of these. If you've enjoyed this, then please do share and like, and please do subscribe to my new channel. And then you'll know when the next ones are, especially if you click that notification bell. But anyway, I just want to thank you so much for joining me today. If you've got any comments or something you'd like to know, then please do just drop me a line. I'm getting a lovely thank you message from Gillian. Thank you so much for being with me today. I really appreciate it. And I look forward to speaking with you next week, maybe because you do some great services. And I know that I'm going to be having a lovely session with you. I don't know if it was okay to promote you there, Gillian, but I promote you on my other channel, which is Louisa Tanner Munson. Gillian is an amazing healer. Yeah, she's worth checking out. I've got a great video on Louisa Tanner Munson on the YouTube channel with about 3 or 4 videos with Gillian. She's very, very good. In fact, we did. I'll put it. Oh, thank goodness, Gillian saying it's always good when I promote her. So we've we actually did a lovely show earlier this year about boundaries and calling ourselves back into wholeness. I can't remember the title, but I will put it in the show links for you. And then if you're interested, then just click on it and you can learn all about it. But Gillian takes us through a lovely exercise of letting go of everything that's not us, and then, a letting everything that is us, allowing it back in. But you got to be really careful about how you call it in, okay, just to make sure you're calling all of your stuff in. But anyway, click on the link below and you'll get the advice straight from Gillian. Anyway, all that aside, so much love for you. I hope you have a great December. And the show was called Calling Ourselves Back into Wholeness. Isn't that lovely? See, this might be the thing you want to do on the 29th and 30th of December, is call yourself back into wholeness. That sounds like a lovely, gentle and affirming and discerning thing to do. So anyway, I hope this is helping you to feel more freedom and clarity in your life. That's my aim. And I wish you lots of love. Take care. Speak to you soon. Bye for now.